Hi. Okay, so today I am going to be chatting with you about skills. We're going to check back in regarding selective attention and what that's about and how you can be using it. And we're also going to talk about what the experience is like when you begin implementing skills that maybe used before, skills that might be really new to you. Maybe they're not so new, but they're just not skills you use regularly. Maybe you use them and your partner doesn't. Maybe you use these skills, but your family members are not backing you up. They're not having your back on what it's like to parent in this new way. So, first and foremost, I want to just state that anytime anyone tries to do something different, there can be some fear or anxiety that comes along with that. Whether it's fear, certain specific thoughts that are very explicit to us, or whether it's just this underlying anxious feeling, it might be uncomfortable. It might just even feel uncomfortable to set aside time to do these workshops. Maybe, I don't know. I know from experience personally and from interacting with other folks and talking about these things, it's pretty common to feel uncomfortable when trying new things, whatever that might be. So I just want to praise you over and over again. Praise, 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 praise for taking the leap and doing things differently, experimenting with what is going to work for you and your family, because that's really what this is. It's your experiment with your life and your family, knowing that things can look different. Things can feel better. Relationships can be happier. You know that. That's why you're here. Okay, so selective attention. Let's chat about that. I'll remind you, this is the act of choosing to place your attention on something other than the behavior you don't like. So, this is when your child is acting up, or, well, let's say they're acting up. Maybe they're shouting, or they are huffing and puffing, or maybe they're just doing something. Think of any behavior that frustrates you. They're doing that. And then you, rather than hyper focusing on that behavior, you choose to look somewhere else. And this is a skill that's utilized in a specific type of situation. This is a skill that's meant to be used when the child is quite apparently seeking attention or trying to get their way in an inappropriate manner. So, there's a lot of different ways that that a challenging behavior can be addressed. We have talked in not last workshop, but the workshop previous about the use of empathy, the use of redirection, of I statements. There are a lot of ways that you can give attention to a behavior in a productive way, because it's very simple to give attention to the behaviors that we don't like in a very unproductive way. So, trying to teach a lesson or make a demand when a child is already very dysregulated, meaning they're not balanced, they're not centered or focused, it's going to be ineffective. And what a waste of time. I know I don't want to waste my time trying to address behaviors with someone who can't learn or can't hear me. And that's what's happening when there's a challenging behavior that comes up and we as an adult hyper focus on it, and we try to get them to do something different now because I don't like it, and we're feeding that behavior. That's all that's going to happen is the behavior is going to grow. We're watering it, it's going to grow. We're giving it attention when what it needs to be happening is we need to actively ignore. So Just to be clear, when you're actively ignoring, and active ignore equals selective attention. They're just different terms for the same thing. When you're doing that, this is not you doing nothing. No, no, no. This is you being as intentional as you can be about where you place your attention. So this is not you just letting your child get away with whatever they want to get away with or act in whatever way they want to. There will still be a lesson to be learned. This is you practicing what it's like to place your attention somewhere else and to experiment with how your child responds. And this is going to be tough. The next step here is when your child does comply with what you want them to do, or they do stop engaging in the behavior that you don't want them to, then you have to follow up with some praise. You have to let them know that you acknowledge the shift, that you're aware that they made the change. This is where the real learning happens. Just like I had mentioned before, when a child is disciplined by taking something away, the real learning happens when they receive that item back. The same is true here. The child will lose attention for a certain behavior. However, once that behavior dissipates and you're seeing something more appropriate, you have to acknowledge it, because that acknowledgement is what really alerts the child to, oh, that's the thing that I need to do in order to get the attention that I really love. Now, this can be really tricky. This can be really hard. And for a number of reasons, but the first reason that's coming up for me is having outside opinion from other adults as you're trying to parent. Now, if selective attention isn't something that you've done before with your child as a tool to manage their behavior, then this is going to look really wild to maybe your parents or to your siblings or your friends. This might look like you're not doing anything. I want to remind you that that is not true. This is a construct that we've developed mentally, that when a parent is not like barking at you and telling you to stop or giving you a spanking or taking something away, then the parent isn't doing anything. But this is an old construct. We don't have to live by that. In fact, we shouldn't, because over the years, more and more research has come out to show that there are much easier ways to parent. That is a very taxing way to deal with challenging behaviors, to be constantly pointing out what you don't like, to be constantly making commands. And it just creates so much tension in the relationship. And this really does go for not only the adult-child relationship, but the relationships that we have with all people. So when we praise and we give all kinds of attention to the behaviors we like, and we start to place our attention elsewhere when it comes to the stuff we don't like, we're going to start seeing so much more of what we really do want. So that's what selective attention is. That's what the purpose of it is. For you to manage the behavior from a place of ease. Now, if the child is emotional and just totally unable to ground themselves, then maybe it is more than attention seeking. Maybe it's not just for the purposes of getting my way. Maybe the child is really disturbed for whatever reason, and we don't have to always know the reasons. Try, if you can, to reflect on when you were a child, anywhere between that. Well, you might not have memories earlier than age 5, but if you do, try to think about a fear that you had, something that you would know as an adult to be totally irrational, but as a child, you had this fear or worry or image that came to your mind that created disruption for you emotionally. We are so fortunate to be gifted the imagination. And also, as children, the imagination can take a person in a lot of different directions that can be totally unfounded or inaccurate or just irrational. And still, they could be ideas, thoughts, or images that are greatly impacting the child's emotional. I'm losing the word that I'm trying to say, but the point here is that even if the emotion doesn't make sense to you, if selective attention just really, 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 really isn't working, then maybe it'll be helpful to try to make your best guess about what the child is feeling and what's going on. Because sometimes a behavior might look really frustrating, and really the behavior is information about the child's internal reality. So, something to think about. And what would making your best guess look like? It would look like you trying to name the feeling that they might be having. It might be you trying to guess what they might be worried about or what they might be angry about and stating it. And not stating it in a condescending, I'm the adult, you're the child, so I say what's what way, but more of a, hey, I'm a grown up human. My brain is a little more advanced. You're a child human. Maybe you need help. I'm going to reflect what I am seeing, and I'm going to try to teach you how to manage this. Because when you grow up, this is just, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for you. It doesn't work for anybody. It's a very different place that you would be coming from. And the child can sense that. And the child can sense that. Even young, very young babies can sense that. Even if babies, pre-verbal children, are unable to verbally express themselves or verbally express their reaction to what you're saying or their ability to understand what you're saying, they do understand what you mean implicitly. They are taking in the energy, the mood, the tone behind the words that are being said. So know that it's not always about picking the perfect skill or making the perfect guess about what the child is feeling. A lot of times it's just about taking a tone of respect. From human to human, I'm going to teach you how to experience mutual respect, because that's where the child is going to learn that. A, a child, any child, is going to learn about the world and how to understand what to expect from the world based on their interactions with their immediate family. So when you approach a challenging behavior from a place of mutual respect, you are showing the child that not only do other people deserve respect like you, but that they are also worthy of respect, and that they do not have to allow anyone in their life to speak in hurtful ways. And those could be words that are hurtful, and it can be a tone that is hurtful. A tone of voice holds a lot. A facial expression holds a lot. of information about how I feel about you and how I am going to treat you, what I think you are worthy of receiving. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Also, know that if you slip and you yell or you speak in a condescending or disrespectful way, know that you are learning. We're all learning. I'm still learning because these are skills that we can use in any of our relationships, even with adults. So there are going to be hiccups. There are going to be those ups and downs. However, rather than having this situation going on, you're going to have a situation that's more like this. Because what you're doing as well is not only learning the skills, learning about how to respond to emotion, learning about mutual respect and modeling and helping the child to navigate their perspective on life. You're also practicing being mindful. Let's just pause there. Mindfulness. Taking a breath now. Let's take a few inhales and exhales and listen to the breath and feel the breath. Feel the belly rise and fall each time you inhale and exhale. Think of an emotion, whatever emotions come up in response to this material. Keep breathing, listening to the breath. Start labeling whatever emotions come to mind. Just name them. Hopeful, angry, worried, guilty, whatever they are. Take a few moments. Okay, so what I'd like to challenge you to do is after this workshop, I want you to get creative and I want you to process further some of these feelings that are coming up for you, those feelings that you're naming. Whatever has popped into your mind, it doesn't have to make any sense. If the feeling that came up was excitement and you don't know exactly why you're excited, that's fine. You don't have to know that right now. All you need to know is the feeling. Then you're going to take that feeling and I want you to draw a picture. Keep in mind that this activity is not at all about your drawing skills. If you don't want to draw, it doesn't have to be drawing. It can be finger painting. And I know that sounds like a little kid activity. It's also such a powerful sensory experience. And it's an activity that you can utilize to really tap into the present moment through the texture, the feel, the colors, all of that. So you can use any creative activity you like. What I want you to do is take whatever materials they are. If you use no materials and you choose to do dance or movement, you can just put on a song and move your body. And you're going to do half the page or half the song representing the challenges that you've experienced with your child. Um, in that representation, you'll also have, that uncomfortable emotion, whatever's come up for you. This can look however you want. You could draw stick figures. It could be a scene. It could just be color. You can pick colors that speak to you and just put them on paper because that color looks like this feeling. And it could just be if you're moving your body, observing your physical sensations as you move and as you think about that emotion. And as you observe in your mind any memories or thoughts that come up in response. Then, once you have created that on one side of the paper, I want you to, on the other side of the paper, or for the other half of the song, to process where it is you are going, where you see yourself, what direction you see yourself moving in with your child or with your family. Observe the thoughts that come up, if they are worried thoughts, if they're excited, hopeful, scared. They're all welcome. This is not meant to be an activity where things look bad now and will look better later. That's not necessarily what it will look like. It might look like that to you. It doesn't have to look that way. You can very authentically process your fears. If you're worried that you're going in a direction that doesn't look good, then be honest about it in your art. This is not an opportunity to show that you believe that things are going to get better. This is an activity for you to process your true feelings about what's going on. That's it. You don't have to show anybody what it looks like. You don't have to make sense of it necessarily. You just need to practice being as present as possible with yourself, as non-judgmental as possible of your feelings and of your thoughts. And that's it. That's the only job that you have. I want you to creatively process what's coming up for you. So before we do end, I want to go back to the challenges in trying out new ways of parenting, new ways of speaking to your child, and having to potentially deal with the backlash from family. I want to encourage you to create some affirmations for yourself. These are just going to be simple statements that are true for you. For example, one that I believe to be true is, you are invested in doing the very best you can for your child. You are invested. You are watching these videos. You are engaging in the work. You are committed to making a change. So even if someone has a problem with what you're doing, you could certainly respond with, I am invested in doing the best that I can for my child. How I do it and how you might do it might look different, but I am invested in finding the best ways to deal with my child. Whatever your affirmations are going to be, create a few of them, save them somewhere, write them down, type them into your phone, and use these. Look at them daily as reminders that you are on a very mindful mission to create the life that you know you're worthy of and that your child is also worthy of. Stay strong. I definitely believe in you. I believe in us all. And your child thanks you. They might not now. Later, when they really truly understand what you've done for them, they will. Thank you so much for being here.